If the strange appearance of His Majesty the Scarecrow seemed startling to Jack, no less wonderful was the form of the Pumpkinhead to the Scarecrow. The purple trousers and pink waistcoat and red shirt hung loosely over the wooden joints Tip had manufactured, and the carved face on the pumpkin grinned perpetually, as if its wearer considered life the jolliest thing imaginable.
"Where on earth did you come from? And how do you happen to be alive?"
"I beg your Majesty's pardon,"
returned the Pumpkinhead.
"but I do not understand you."
"What don't you understand?"
asked the Scarecrow.
"Why, I don't understand your language. You see, I came from the country of the Gillikins, so that I am a foreigner."
"Ah, to be sure,"
exclaimed the Scarecrow.
"I myself speak the language of the Munchkins, which is also the language of the Emerald City. But you, I suppose, speak the language of the Pumpkinheads?"
"Exactly so, your Majesty,"
replied the other, bowing.
"So it will be impossible for us to understand one another."
"That is unfortunate, certainly,"
said the Scarecrow thoughtfully.
"We must have an interpreter."
"What is an interpreter?"
asked Jack.
"A person who understands both my language and your own. When I say anything, the interpreter can tell you what I mean, and when you say anything, the interpreter can tell me what you mean. For the interpreter can speak both languages as well as understand them."
"That is certainly clever,"
said Jack, greatly pleased at finding so simple a way out of the difficulty. So the Scarecrow commanded the soldier with the green whiskers to search among his people until he found one who understood the language of the Gillikins as well as the language of the Emerald City, and to bring that person to him at once. When the soldier had departed, the Scarecrow said,
"Won't you take a chair while we are waiting?"
"Your Majesty forgets that I cannot understand you,"
replied the Pumpkinhead.
"If you wish me to sit down, you must make a sign for me to do so."
The Scarecrow came down from his throne and rolled an armchair into a position behind the Pumpkinhead. Then he gave Jack a sudden push that sent him sprawling upon the cushions in so awkward a fashion that he doubled up like a jackknife and had hard work to untangle himself.
"Did you understand that sign?"
asked His Majesty politely.
"Perfectly,"
declared Jack, reaching up his arms to turn his head to the front, the pumpkin having twisted around upon the stick that supported it.
"You seem hastily made,"
remarked the Scarecrow, watching Jack's efforts to straighten himself.
"Not more so than your Majesty,"
was the frank reply.
"There is this difference between us,"
said the Scarecrow.
"that whereas I will bend but not break, you will break but not bend."
At this moment, the soldier returned, leading a young girl by the hand. She seemed very sweet and modest, having a pretty face and beautiful green eyes and hair.
"Why, it's little Jelly-a-Jam!"
exclaimed the Scarecrow as the Green Maiden bowed her pretty head before him.
"Do you understand the language of the Gillikins, my dear?"
"Yes, your Majesty,"
she answered.
"for I was born in the North Country."
"Then you shall be our interpreter,"
said the Scarecrow.
"Is this arrangement satisfactory?"
he asked, turning towards his guest.
"Very satisfactory indeed,"
was the reply.
"Then ask him, to begin with,"
resumed the Scarecrow, turning to Jellia,
"what brought him to the Emerald City?"
But instead of this, the girl, who had been staring at Jack, said to him,
"You are certainly a wonderful creature. Who made you?"
"A boy named Tip,"
answered Jack.
"What does he say?"
inquired the Scarecrow.
"My ears must have deceived me. What did he say?"
"He says that your Majesty's brains seem to have come loose,"
replied the girl demurely. The Scarecrow moved uneasily upon his throne.
"Ask him, my dear, if he has any objection to being put in jail for insulting the ruler of the Emerald City."
"I didn't insult you,"
protested Jack indignantly.
"Tut, tut,"
cautioned the Scarecrow.
"Wait until Jellia translates my speech. What have we got an interpreter for if you break out in this rash way?"